Welcome to H2K Infosys. H2K Infosys is a e-verify business based in Atlanta, Georgia, United States. We provide 100% job-oriented, instructor-led, face-to-face, true live online software training programs. It also includes access to cloud test lab with software tools. We provide live project for you to work on. We also provide assistance with mock interviews, resume preparation and review, and job placement assistance. H2K Infosys is trusted by so many students across the world. H2K Infosys provides world-class services in IT training with real-time project work for corporates and individuals, special IT training for MS students in the United States, software design, development, QA manual and automation, performance testing and maintenance, IT staff augmentation, job placement assistance, and tech support.
Our entity class. So this entity class in turn will be converted to the entity table based on Hibernate mapping file. And once after that, this will fetch the information from the database based on the ID that you have provided. So currently, when you call session.get method by passing these two information, this will produce a result, and the result will be in terms of your employee bean itself. So that means the get method will return a persistent object, nothing but a permanent object from your database, and we are storing that within our employee object, EMP object. If at all, if the employee ID was not available, let us say we are querying for some employee details from the front end, and the employee ID was not available, at that time the get method will return a null value. So that's the reason we are comparing whether it is a null or not, and then only we are returning the employee. And the next one is load method. Normally the load method is also used to retrieve the information based on serializable object, nothing but your primary key. Your get method also used for the same purpose, and load method will also be used for the same purpose. But what is the reason to have two methods for retrieving the information from the database? Load method was available from the starting. That means it was available from the Hibernate first time release onwards. But the get method was added later. Some people see Hibernate is an open source framework. Anybody can suggest any kind of information or request any kind of methods. Based on the user request, they have added get method. So load method was available from the starting. And the difference between get and load method, this will be an interview question definitely, if at all if you are attending for Hibernate oriented jobs. Normally when you use get method, and if the record was not available, record corresponding to your primary key was not available, then get method will result as null value. So the return type will be a null value. But the load method will throw an exception, which is object not found exception. So if you are going for load method, the data has to be available. The corresponding record details for the primary key has to be available in the database, or else the load method will throw object not found exception. And the second difference is the get method call will directly hit the database. In the sense, here you are executing session.get method. So this will, whenever you are using session.get method, it will inform to the Hibernate to prepare the SQL query for retrieving the information based on employee table and also based on employee ID as a column. So it will immediately prepare a query and will send a request to the database to fetch the details. But with load method, it will return a proxy at the first time. So whenever you call session.load method, this will also return you an employee object, but this will return you a proxy object nothing but a dummy object. Proxy object nothing but a dummy object which won't contain any kind of information. Just like it will create an employee object, employee emp equal to new employee. It won't prepare any kind of data because it won't hit the data at the same time whenever you have called session.load method. So if at all, if it hasn't queried the database, how can we get the data? When you are accessing the properties of entity, let us say when you are calling get designation method, then Hibernate will issue select query to retrieve the information. So that means during the object creation, during the load method call, it will just return a proxy object, but not the actual data. The reason for that is it won't issue a select query. So when it will get the data, when you are accessing the properties of the employee, it will issue the select query for the first time. So let us say if you are calling get designation and after that get salary method. So whenever you are trying to access the properties for the first time, it will issue the select query and will retrieve the information, that is proxy object. So here get employee Hibernate details, I'm just changing this to session.load method instead of session.get method. And here which holds null values.
The proxy, yeah, the proxy.
Okay.
Is the proxy object holds null value? I mean,
no, normally we won't retrieve the data directly, right? So when you are accessing, it will directly retrieve a dummy object. Probably it might contain, but when you are accessing the property at the time, it will be going to issue the select query. So that means the data will get filled up by the Hibernate when you are trying to access the data.
Okay. So dummy object is holding null values or just like?
That's what we can't verify the dummy object.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. When you are trying to access the data from the dummy object, normally if you say as per our default value strategy, it should hold null values only. But when you call the get designation, if the data was available, it will fetch, it will store the data. If at all, if the data was not available, this will throw an object not found exception at this case. So it's not possible for us to verify whether at the starting place it will contain a null value or not.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So change this to load. And here, once after that, I'm not accessing any of the properties. I'm just returning back the employee, which will return back to the processor. So go back to our processor. So here my processor calls get employee Hibernate details and it stores the employee details. Let me write one more statement here, logger.info. Get method call completed. So once after that, this will enter into verification part, employee object available. Just for our understanding, I am writing these statements. Come back to our startup page. Currently enter the details as 100 and Steve. Null pointer exception. Login processor called. Yesterday I made this as null, but I forgot to turn this with the actual value. So you can see that I'm able to fetch the data, but verify where exactly the Hibernate query has executed. So here you can see that login processor called, employee details retrieved using Hibernate query, get method call completed. So here this is my employee DAO class where exactly we have performed the load method. And once after that, the control has returned back to the login processor, and you can see that it has entered into the employee object available method, which means it has entered into the if block. It has entered into if block because your employee consists of a dummy object. Now we are trying to access employee.getPassword. So that means we are trying to access the entity of employee. Then it has issued the select query, and you are able to fetch the details now, each and everything, and you are able to display the data to the front end. Let us execute one more time. So this time I'm entering some other number, some other employee ID. Let us say 110. org.hibernate.object not found exception. No row with the given identifier exists. Previously, when we are using with respect to get method, and if the ID was not available, it has returned a null value, and we are able to redirect the login to the login page, and we have mentioned that employee ID and password was not matched. But in this case, it has raised some exception. Here also you can see that login process started, it has entered into employee DAO, get method call completed, employee object available. The reason for that is, even though the data corresponding to that was not available, but a proxy object was available with respect to our employee reference. And when you're accessing get password, this has issued a Hibernate query, and at this time, it couldn't able to locate any record corresponding to 110 or 105. That's the reason it has responded with object not found exception. So instead of raising an exception and handling at the catch block level, that's the reason they have requested for another method, which is get method, and the get method will return only a null value, if at all, if the corresponding row was not available in the data. The next one is delete method. Delete method will issue a delete query to the database. So the delete method accepts only one parameter. You just need to pass. See, currently we are discussing only with respect to objects. So you can pass your employee object, and no need to set much more details for the employee object except primary key. So that means once you got the employee object, or once you got the primary key, just create an employee object and pass that to your delete method, and the delete method will issue, by using delete method, Hibernate will issue session dot delete of object. So here, just pass your employee object. This will issue a delete query to the database and retrieve and deletes the row from the database. This won't return anything. It will just return simply a void. So you guys are supposed to practice delete query. It will refer the hbm.xml file where you have mentioned the ID attribute. No issues. Okay, the next one is save method. See, until now we are using only the get method or load method. So those are just like normal retrieval queries, so which won't affect the database when you're performing those two operations. But when you're using delete method or save method, see, in normal cases also within your workbench, currently this was by default auto commit mode enabled for your workbench, but normally when you are using with respect to command prompt, when you use insert query or delete query or update query, normally you will perform a commit or rollback operation. So within our JDBC also, we have started one transaction, and the transaction, once after that, will be going to commit or will do a rollback on that. So in the same way, for Hibernate also, we have the capability of starting a transaction and perform any number of operations, and if you want to commit all the transactions as an atomic, then go and commit all the transactions, or else roll back from that place. To create a transaction, it was available from your session itself. Call begin transaction method, which will start a transaction. Let me write here itself. Let me write one more method. Public void save employee. Normally, you need to create entire employee object, and you need to save the employee by using Hibernate save method. So let us start a transaction. You need to use org.hibernate.transaction session dot before that you need to get the session. Begin transaction, and once after that you need to perform the save operation. The save operation accepts an object. Object nothing but what kind of an object that you want to save to the database, nothing but your entity class. Your entity class corresponds to a row in the database. So let us say you are performing session.save of employee. So your employee internally consists of all the details like employee ID, employee first name, designation, salary, and all the information. So Hibernate will read the employee object and creates an insert query, insert into employee values. It will make use of all the information, whatever that was available from your employee object, and it will issue an insert query to the database, and finally it will provide you the primary key which got created. The return value is the primary key. So now I'm not going to create a register page. So I'm just creating a dummy object here itself. Employee emp equal to new employee. You guys please create a register page from the front end and pass on the employee object to the save employee method and save the employee directly to the database. Employee dot set employee first name, which is employee first name. I'm just setting all the defaults. Employee last name, set designation, set salary, this is an integer. Employee dot set username, set password, and finally set your employee ID as well. $110. See, normally in our database, we won't prefer to generate or to send the employee ID from any kind of application. The employee ID will get generated automatically either by using a sequence, or you'll have some dummy table and the value will be read from the dummy table and will get updated and we'll get the updated value from the dummy table, and during the insert query, we'll make use of that particular dummy table value and we'll insert the row. So normally when we use Oracle, we'll follow a sequence approach. The sequence will retrieve the next value from the database, and it will provide you as a primary key for your table. But currently, we are sending the primary key from our side, from our Java side. We'll see what are all the other options to avoid the primary key and create from the database side or by using Hibernate. So finally, you just need to say the employee, and this will return the created employee ID. This will return a serialized object, so you just need to convert that to employee ID. Don't accept any parameter also. We'll just execute this directly. So finally, you just need to commit your transaction and you need to close your session. So I need to call the save employee from my login processor. I guess I have already written. Let me take a code.
Okay.
Yep.
How does that method return 110 back to you?
No, I have taken dummy values. That's what I have mentioned, right?
So should they match even if you go with Oracle sequence? We will not be knowing what Oracle sequence will be returning, right?
No, we will discuss about those situations. As of now, I'm just using only the dummy data to insert the record into our database table. Okay. So you guys supposed to read all the information from the front end, and you need to prepare the object at this level, and you need to call save employee method. Employee DAO, EMP DAO, new employee DAO. Login processor, save method called. Now go back to our servlet. So here also I'm changing processor dot save user details, and I'm going to comment all this stuff. So that means my login page will call directly the save user details, and save user details will call save employee, and the save employee issue an insert query to the database, and it will save the details to our employee table.
So many of our students have given testimonials on how our training programs are. You will find them on kudzu.com and on our website h2kinfosys.com. On our website h2kinfosys.com, you will also find more detailed information on who we are, the courses that we offer, what each course covers. Also, if you're interested in a demo program, please register on our homepage on the left-hand side. Just give us more information about yourself and we will send you a link for a demo class. The demo class is absolutely free. Experience our commitment by just attending an orientation workshop at no cost. Our team of faculty and advisors are here to guide you with the right information. If you still have more questions, please feel free to call us. Call us at 770-777-1269. This is a United States number. If you're calling from the UK, call us at 020-337-17615. You can also email us at training@h2kinfosys.com or h2kinfosys@gmail.com. Thank you for watching our videos. We wish you a great career in information technology.